Today, we're diving into a question that gets to the very heart of who we are as people, as societies, as a species. It's a big one.
So, is peace our default setting? The way things are meant to be? Or is it this fragile thing, this hard won victory that we have to constantly struggle to maintain over our more aggressive side? How you answer that really changes everything.
Well, it turns out the answer isn't a simple yes or no. The real story is in this deep-seated tension that exists inside every single one of us. We are literally built for both cooperation and competition. And it's the balance, or the struggle, between these two forces that really defines the human story. And this right here, this really lays out that internal tug of war. On one side, you've got our cooperative instincts, things like empathy, our ability to work together. I mean, that's how we survived and thrived as a species, right? Through social bonds. But then, on the other side, you have these competitive impulses, driven by fear, by scarcity, by struggles for power. They've always been with us too. So, which one tends to win out?
All right, let's explore the first side of the argument, the idea that at our core, we're peaceful, that our cooperative side is really the dominant one.
I mean, just think about your own day-to-day life. Most of your interactions, hopefully, are pretty nonviolent. This perspective says, hey, that's not an accident. That's our natural state. We're born with these moral instincts, a sense of fairness, a feeling of empathy. And here's the kicker. Large-scale violence, like war, that doesn't just happen. It's not spontaneous. It almost always requires huge, organized efforts, institutions, propaganda, to get people to that point. But of course, there's a flip side to this coin, a powerful counterargument that peace isn't natural at all. It's something we have to build and protect. Just open any history book, right? It's filled with wars. The daily news is full of conflict. This viewpoint argues that without structures to keep us in check, our competitive side would just run wild. Peace isn't a given. It's this incredibly fragile achievement that needs constant upkeep, constant protection. Because if you leave us to our own devices, a simple argument can escalate fast. So if peace isn't guaranteed by Mother Nature, how do we actually create it? How do we maintain it? This brings us to what you might call the architecture of peace, the actual structures we've built to manage this conflict inside ourselves. So peace seems to rest on these four huge pillars, our legal and political institutions, our cultural norms, and our economic stability. These are the systems we build to channel those competitive, aggressive instincts into something constructive, or at least not destructive. Let's break down what each one really does. First up, institutions. We're talking about our legal and political systems. You can think of them as the official rulebook for society. They create formal, nonviolent ways for us to solve our disagreements. They don't get rid of conflict, that's impossible, but they manage it. They give people a process, a way to have their grievances heard without resorting to violence. Okay, next up is culture. Now, if institutions are the hardware of peace, you could say culture is the software. It's all our shared values, our stories, our moral lessons that encourage us to cooperate. A culture that really values things like compassion and dialogue is a huge force for stability. But, and this is important, it's a double-edged sword. Culture can also be twisted to create an us versus them mentality and justify aggression. And finally, we've got the economy. This one is massive. When people feel the system is rigged, when they don't have basic security or a fair shot at opportunity, well, that's fertile ground for conflict. Economic stability is so important because when people feel like they have a real stake in their society, a good job, a home, a future for their kids, they are way more likely to protect that society, not tear it down. So we have these two kind of opposite views, right? Peace is natural or peace is a hard-fought achievement. So how do we bring these two ideas together? Well, the answer lies in a really cool concept that ties it all up. And that brings us to the key idea here. Peace isn't some static, unchanging thing. It's a dynamic balance. It's this constant, ongoing process of managing our two natures, of encouraging our cooperative side while building systems to handle our competitive side. It's not a destination. It's a continuous balancing act. So, at the end of the day, peace is something that emerges when we actively tilt the scales. We build those pillars we just talked about, our laws, our culture, our economies, to encourage our better angels, while putting up guardrails to manage our more dangerous impulses. Peace isn't about getting rid of conflict entirely. It's about learning how to resolve it constructively. Okay, so what is the big takeaway from all of this? When we think about peace in our communities and in our world, what's the one thing we really need to remember? I think this quote just nails it perfectly.
Peace is not a passive state that simply exists. It is a continuous social achievement. Let that sink in. In other words, peace is something we do, not just something we have. It takes work, constant work. And that work, well, it falls on all of us. It's built on the choices we make, on the responsibilities we're willing to take on, and on that shared, ongoing effort to build a society that's based on fairness and trust. You could say peace is an active verb.
And that leaves us with one final and, I think, pretty powerful question to chew on. If peace really is this collective project we have to build together every single day, then what's your role in that architecture? What part are you building?